Oh wait. Oh no, wait. No, we're good. We're good. The audio input is it's already doing its thing. It's already doing its thing. What's going on, everybody? How we doing today? Oh man, excuse me. Today is Fallout Sunday, as usual. We are going to be playing some. Ah man, hmm. Felt a weird thing in my back. I got a fucked up neck. It's one of the many reasons why I'm not fighting right now. Why I'm still not really active in that way. I got a screwed up neck. It's been causing me problems for a while now, and I got to stretch it in certain ways, and I got to watch my posture and stuff like that, right? And I moved in a weird way, trying to kind of stretch it, and I just felt like a pinch out of nowhere, and it's so annoying. It's nerve wracking, when you have a neck injury, yeah, I guess you could call it an injury, but it's more of just a chronic problem. When you have a chronic neck problem, anytime you move and like you feel anything weird, you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no, like it just scares the shit out of you. Um, Apparently they weren't telling me to bust a move when they yelled, "Sir, get down." Dude, that'd be great. I'm sure there's somebody out there who they just decided they'd be like an asshole when a cop was telling them to get on the ground or something like that. And I hope to God they didn't get shot. I really, really hope they didn't get shot. What's going on, David? What's going on, Huckleberry? What's going on, JC Pliskin? I don't know if Huckleberry and David are still here. If you are, thanks for tuning in. You as well, JC Pliskin. Thanks for tuning in. Sup, bro? What's your reaction to Volt getting dial toned yesterday? Dude, it was crazy because if you rewatch the fight, you notice there was a point where Islam ends up throwing a head kick, right? And Volk barely ended up blocking it, right? And I remember sitting there. I forget if I said something out loud to my wife or not, but I do remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, wow, Volk didn't really try to defend that. He just kind of caught it on his arm and it almost got through. He didn't really react to it at all, the way I saw it. That's scary. That's not a good sign. And then sure enough, what happens? Islam dings him upside the head. And the thing is, like, it was almost sort of a glancing blow. But a glancing blow from a head kick, that's like taking a glancing blow from a baseball bat, It's not like if I threw a punch and my fist ended up like dinging you here like that, where it's like, all right, that's not that big of a deal. It's more annoying than anything. It's not the same thing. At the end of the day, Volk was sitting on the couch up until 12 days before the fight, not even a full 2 weeks before the fight. I didn't expect him to win, though I would have liked for him to win. I do like Islam Makhachev, I will say that. And I don't hate Khabib either, right? Like I don't mind Khabib, though I'm not the biggest Khabib fan. So it's not like I was like punching the air or anything, right? But it just kind of is what it is. One thing I did like that Islam did was when he knocked out Volk, he immediately was telling the crowd, like, hey, don't quiet down, everybody. I appreciate that. That's a sportsmanship move. That is a respect move, and I appreciate that. What I'm more upset about, what I'm more moved by, is the way that Kamaru Usman fought, and the way that he got robbed of a victory. Like, MMA judging is so bullshit, and I'm going to be honest with you. With everything that was going on yesterday, it's hard for me to not believe that it had something to do with where it was in the world and the fighters that were fighting on that card. I got to be honest with you. They slap a card down in the middle of Abu Dhabi. They have a bunch of Muslim fighters on there. You think it's the Nevada State Athletic Commission doing things in Abu Dhabi? No, it's their homegrown little thing where they're gonna look out for their own guys and things like that, right? I think that's what happened with Johnny Walker. I think that doctor was looking out for I think his name was like Ankalev or something like that, and I didn't even see that fight. I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't know. Like, Ankalev could have been absolutely murdering Johnny Walker up till that point, right? But it wouldn't surprise me if that doctor, who was most likely an Emirati Muslim, was sitting there thinking, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna look out for fucking Ankalev here, right? I'm gonna put an end to this fight. Um, at the end of the day, it's not his decision as to whether or not there is going to be a no contest or a DQ win or anything like that, right? He probably was just like, oh well, if I decide that what's his face can't fight, then maybe it'll be a KO victory, or maybe I'll be saving his ass or something like that, right? It's just weird. It's just weird how that went down. But that aside, right? Like I don't even want to put a ton of like emphasis on the Johnny Walker situation itself, because that to me is, while it's significant, it's not that significant, right? What I'm really upset about is the way that they robbed Kamaru Usman, and I think we knew that was going to happen because he was fighting Chimaev, who is again a Muslim, right? He's living in the United Arab Emirates, if I remember correctly, right? The thing is, I'm not an expert on the Middle East or anything like that, specifically the oil countries and things like that. I don't know that much about them, so it all kind of melds together for me, right? But I knew they were gonna give it to him, right? Because it was a close fight, but it wasn't that close. Usman won that fight, but they could at the very least turn around and say, well, I mean, all of round one, it was just riding time on Chimaev's end, right? Chimaev controlled him the entire round. Did he do damage? Not really. Did he sink some chokes that actually were threatening? Not really. But, I mean, he controlled them. You know, Usman lost the round. Okay. All right, there we go. Usman won the second round. They can't really say anything about that. But in that third round, they could use more riding time, right? More ground control time. I tend to call it riding time sometimes, right? Because it's a college wrestling thing, right? They award points for riding time. I knew that they were going to say that Usman didn't do enough when that takedown came and Usman was on the ground for more than 30 seconds, right? He ended up getting out and he ended up basically winning the round in terms of striking, but they weren't going to give it to him because, well, they're kind of trying to sort of look out for their boy here, you know? At the end of the day, MMA judging is more dynamic than boxing judging, so you can't just rely on striking, right? Obviously. However, even the grappling, right? Even the grappling judging that takes place is dynamic. You have to take in a bunch of different factors. When somebody scores a takedown, does that takedown actually count or does it not count? And what makes it count? And you have this weird thing where sometimes people have different definitions of what a real takedown is, and they have different definitions or criteria as to what kind of ground control they will award points for, if you want to call it that way, right? And it's just ridiculous. At the end of the day, if I take you down and you pop right back up, that's not a takedown. I have to exert some kind of control over you to keep you on the ground. Now, if I do take you down and I exert control, but then I just lay on top of you for 3 to 5 minutes and I don't do anything, starts to get a little bit weird, doesn't it? You know, because yeah, sure, I'm controlling you, but is it that I'm really controlling you because I'm dominant, or is it that I'm controlling you because I'm afraid that you're going to end up getting back up and I'm going to end up screwed? And that seems to be what it was with Chimaev. He moved, he controlled Usman, right? I didn't think he was going to be able to take Usman down. If you listen to what I said on Friday, I didn't think his wrestling was going to be good enough to really do anything to Usman. But also, in Usman's defense, I didn't realize how small Usman was compared to Chimaev. I didn't realize the height and the size difference between them until I saw them in the octagon. But I digress. Um, you know, Chimaev, he did take him down. He did maintain control, but he really didn't do damage and he really didn't threaten him. It was less that Chimaev took him down and was being dominant, which is what we expect from Chimaev at this point. Everybody expects Chimaev to shoot in early and just absolutely murk whoever it is he's fighting, right? So to see him not be able to impose his will in the way that he has against other people, I think that says a lot. And I think in terms of that fight specifically, he wasn't holding Usman down because that's what he wanted to do, and he had a game plan, and he was gonna end up he was gonna make his move and things like that, right? He was holding Usman down because he was like, shit, man, I don't know what else to do. I can't outstrike this guy, which says a lot when you can get outstruck by Kamaru Usman. Sheesh, that's bad, you know. And because of that, it's just I don't believe he did enough. You know, now you could blame a bunch of different things. I'm kind of blaming perceived corruption, right? I do believe that there is potentially, possibly, maybe, could be some favoritism that took place yesterday, right? Just being honest with you, that's just the way that I see it. I'm not saying it's a fact. It's just the way that I see it. You could blame differences in understanding of what the rules are. You could blame the rules themselves. Maybe the rules aren't clear enough. Maybe the rules don't take into account certain things, right? Maybe the criteria doesn't take into account certain things, right? Whatever. It's all good. But bottom line, Usman got robbed, you know? Chimaev got beat on the feet every step of the way. Every single, maybe not every single striking exchange, but just about every striking exchange that ended up taking place was Usman winning, right? It's hard for me to sit here, and it's hard for anyone to sit here, just on a caveman level, which at the end of the day, fighting is a caveman thing. We all know intuitively that there's certain things that are good and certain things that are bad, regardless of what certain martial arts and certain athletic commissions and certain other people and things might end up saying. We, in our caveman minds, know that it's not a good thing to end up on bottom in a situation, for instance, right? Even though in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a lot of people prefer to end up on bottom because they can do a bunch of submissions and things like that. But we know in our caveman minds that somebody laying down on top of somebody and not landing any punches or really threatening with any submissions is not the same thing as somebody standing up and putting a pounding on their opponent, right? The guy who's winning the stand-up is doing much better than the guy who's winning the grappling in that situation, if you take those two situations and you compare them, right? So when you consider the fact that the majority of the fight took place on the feet, and in addition to that, in the third round, it was clearly Usman's round. Chimaev tried to, what was it, 2 or 3 takedowns? 2 or 3 of his takedowns got stuffed. He finally got one takedown, really couldn't do anything with it, and then Usman ends up standing back up, and they bang it out for the last 30 seconds to a minute. That's not a Chimaev win, you know? And look, like, there's been a lot of news about protests, right? There's been a lot of news about appeals and things like that, right? Specifically from the influencer boxing world. A bunch of people from the Prime card are appealing their results and things like that. And I'm not someone who wants to be litigious about this, right? I don't want litigation to be a big thing in the combat sports world. That's foolish. But I'll be honest with you, I couldn't 110% blame Kamaru Usman if he decided to use any kind of channels that are available for him to use to appeal the decision and potentially get the fight rescored, right? I'm just being honest with you. It's not something I want to see all the time, but it's something that I believe that it might not be a bad idea because, like I said, I personally believe, in my opinion, there could be some kind of favoritism that was played to Chimaev yesterday. And if that's the case, then he should get a board, or just he should try his best to get a new ruling on it. And if that ruling says no, actually Chimaev won, then it's like, well, all right, now we know for sure. But you never know. It might end up saying like, oh yeah, I don't know how the hell they came to that conclusion. Somebody said that the first round, and I'm gonna move on after this, but somebody said the first round was a 10-8 round, and that is insane to me because 10-8 rounds. The idea of a 10-8 round comes from boxing, right? If you and I are fighting and in round one, neither of us scores a knockdown, chances are, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be scored 10-9. Okay, meaning if I win the round, I get 10 points. If you lose the round, you get 9 points. Now, if we are fighting and in that first round, I score a knockdown, it's going to be a 10-8 round because without the knockdown, it would be a 10-9 round. But since you got knocked down, you also have a point taken away from you. So it is a 10-8 round now, right? The idea is that you have damaged somebody. You have caused a significant amount of reaction on their part as to where the action had to stop so that they could be checked on, right? Whether it was a true knockdown or if it was a standing 8 or whatever, right? The idea that you can get a 10-8 round from just laying on top of somebody is fucking bonkers. It's insane. And I'm not having it, damn it. I'm not having it. Oh geez. Anyway, so that's my opinion on Usman versus Chimaev, and I'm saying this as someone who's not an Usman fan. Like I was rooting for him yesterday because I don't like the Chimaev hype train, which he's been exposed as a hype train by now, even though he still has not lost a fight. He's apparently supposed to be the next big thing. He's a Chechen monster. Nobody can beat him. He takes no damage in his fights. Gets starched by Gilbert Burns, almost loses. Gets made a fool by somebody who fights at 170 and is smaller than him. Fucking Marty Usman. Marty from Nebraska, right? He's been exposed even though he hasn't lost yet. He's going to end up losing and it's going to look really bad on him. That's just how it is. Could he be a champion? I'm not saying no. In fact, I think if he fought Strickland, he would have a very good chance of winning. A very good chance of winning. Right? But he's not what people are trying to make him out to be, and he's not what his like supremacist fan base tries to make him out to be, And that's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of Usman. That's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of Khabib. Is not even necessarily their fault, and I'm not like trying to blame them for this necessarily, but it just kind of takes away from their allure. Their fans utilize their success as justification for this weird racial or religious supremacy movement within the MMA world, and most of these guys aren't even actually MMA fans, right? They wouldn't care if they didn't have those guys and things like that, right? It's just disgusting, And we're gonna have to deal further with these weirdos who don't know how to fight and would run away if you tried to confront them. They'd pussy the fuck out if you tried to confront them for what they're saying. We have to deal with them using fight sports as an allegory or a cover for their homicidal and genocidal wishes, because that's really what it is. It's that they believe that Allah says that they're allowed to kill the infidels and things like that. And because Khabib Nurmagomedov was very careful to only fight guys that he was bigger than when he felt that he would actually be able to beat them and not have any challenges in his entire fucking career, right? Because Khabib fought that way, that means that Allah wills that me as a Christian, I get slaughtered. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't like it. I don't hate Khabib. I actually have a certain degree of respect for him as a principled person, right? From one dude who tries to be principled to another dude who tries to be principled. Right? Specifically regarding religion, right? I have respect for that on top of his fighting ability, right? But his fan base are the ones that annoy the hell out of me. And again, that's why I really appreciated yesterday when Islam won, right? When Islam Makhachev won, he didn't start doing backflips. He didn't like rub it in or anything like that. He literally told the crowd, "Hey, knock it off. Like, chill out. Don't go too hog wild over this, guys. All right." And I respect that. I'm someone who, win, lose, or draw, I'm not really going to react to it that much, because if I beat somebody, I don't want to be doing backflips and being like, woohoo, woohoo, I don't want to do that, because, like, this person just lost. I don't have anything against this person. I don't want them to feel worse about what just happened. I just got done caving their head in. I don't need to insult them while I'm at it, you know? And if I lose, then it's like, well, I don't have anything to celebrate anyway. And then on top of that, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna take the loss with dignity, and I'm just gonna be like, all right, whatever, it happens. I had a good time anyway. Win, lose, or draw, I have a good time fighting, because it's an opportunity for me to just let everything fly. We spend so much time in this world being told to hold things back. We got to be careful what we do, what we say. We got to think about everybody else. We got to temper every action and reaction and things like that. And it's all because somebody else might be a little bit offended or hurt or annoyed or whatever because of it. And fighting is one of those things where when you end up getting into that ring or that cage, none of it matters. You don't have to worry about holding back or anything like that. If you do hold back, it's actually a really bad thing, and you're probably not going to get the result that you need. And because of that, you get in there, you let everything fly, and win, lose, or draw, you feel good. You get a certain high from it, because I got to do something that most people in their life will never be able to do. And I don't just mean get into a fist fight. What I mean is I was able to just let it go and not have to worry about whether or not somebody might be offended, or whether or not somebody out there likes me or doesn't like me, or if certain powers that be were okay with what I did or said or anything like that. So it's fighting's great, man. I really love fighting. Cal, I just got is that the famous Cal? I don't know if you want me saying your last name, dude. If you are Cal, the Cal, right? The Cal. All right. Hello, dude. How you doing? I did just get done talking about Khamzat's fight. I wasn't a big fan of the decision. I think Usman won. Keep religion out of sports, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily that I think people should keep religion out of sports. I think people should keep sports out of religion, because that's what it is. Khabib brings religion into sports. I don't have a problem with that, because I pray to God before every one of my fights. I pray to God before a fight where I know the person who's going to be in the fight. I pray for God to give him protection and to guide his hand. Right? His or her, we're inclusive here. I don't have a problem with that. What I don't like is the idea that if my person wins, I then turn around and I say, ha, God said, ha, Jesus, Christ is Lord. This is proof. You all fuck off. All you other people, fuck off. Like, that's what I don't like the idea of, right? If that makes sense. Oh, man. That's very attractive, I know. Anyway, so got something special today. Before we are gonna get into New Vegas. All right, we are gonna get into New Vegas, but I want to go ahead and do a couple of things first. I spent a half hour. I spent a half hour talking about the card yesterday, and I don't think that's a bad thing. The card yesterday was interesting in good and bad ways. I'm not the famous Cal, unfortunately, brother. I'm just another Cal. Keep up the good content, man. Dude, all Cals are famous, dude. All right? Don't say that. All right. Okay. So, this is uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, let's bang bang bang. All right. Sorry, I'm a little bit screwed up here right now. All right, so this is not what I want, but what I do want is what the hell? No? Oh, duh. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. This is usually my this is typically my my Fallout thing, right? I would typically utilize this for Fallout New Vegas only, right? So I kind of gotta make it work. But today, what I want to do before we get into Fallout New Vegas is I want to look at some videos of police unarmed combat or close combat or just police combatives training, right? And the reason for this is because the video that I have coming out tomorrow is going to be a short video essay on police combatives and how they are trash, absolute garbage 99% of the time. And some of these videos, in fact, I think all the videos that I'm going to be showing you today are going to be included in the video essay that I'm utilizing. And I want to try and explain to you as in-depth as I possibly can the issues that I have with these things. So what we have right away is takedown defensive tactics technique. Now, one thing that you'll notice about police close quarters combat or unarmed combat or combatives training is that it always has to sound like it's some kind of weird military thing, right? And that's because a lot of these guys who are in police forces, they are former military. A lot of police forces across the nation, they prioritize taking former military. And the thing about the Marines is that once you're in the Marines, you never leave. You might retire, you might not have to wake up at whatever time for roll call in the morning anymore, but once a Marine, always a Marine, right? And if you've met Marines and really anyone in the armed forces who did like a considerable amount of time, and especially if they were in a combat role, they really never do leave. They never really do leave when it comes down to it. They're always kind of revisiting their time in the military in one form or another, right? So because of that, you have this weird stuff where everything in the military absolutely positively has to have some kind of, or excuse me, everything in the police force always has to have some sort of weird Marine, Army Ranger, Green Beret, Navy SEAL sounding name. And that's what this is. Takedown offense. First off, what is takedown offense? That's really weird. Defensive tactics technique. It's got to be tactics. It's got to be tactical. It's got to be strategic assault, tactical, covert ops, special education, special ops, excuse me. It's always got to be some weird stuff like that. It can't just be takedown defense, right? So let's go ahead and see what this gentleman has to say. I'm going to go ahead. I'll turn this up just a teeny tiny bit. All right. JC Pliskin. Welcome to Semper Welcome to Semper Fighting Systems. Today we're learning Krav Maga. Exactly. That's what it is every single time. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Hello everyone, Rich Nance here with your defensive tactics technique.
Hello, Richard Nance. Richard Nancy. So this is officer.com. Hold on. Oh, it said technology training products. I thought that was more tactical stuff, right? There's going to be one that we take a look at that you're going to be like, wow, I know exactly what you're talking about now. All right, so right now we have, see, this is how you know they're really legit, is that this guy is supposed to be some kind of big tactical, cargo pants wearing, utility belt guy who totally knows all of the good stuff that police officers need to know in terms of unarmed combat techniques. He doesn't even have a room dedicated to actual training. He's probably in like the mess hall. He's probably in a cafeteria in a corner, and he's got a couple of pads down on the he's got a couple of like gymnastics at home tumble pads down on the floor. We're already off to a great start. Let's go ahead.
Frank, you know that being taken to the ground, particularly if we're on our back, taken down by the
Turn this
suspect,
up a
is
little.
one of the most dangerous positions we can be in as police officers.
He is correct.
We talked about that before. We have limited mobility. Our gear is accessible to the bad guy. It's just none of our tools can be used to our advantage and can actually be used against us. So we
That
need
is
to
true.
have a way to try to prevent being taken down. And of course, space management and all that stuff has a lot to do with it. But again, it may be that we're distracted and suddenly you're shooting it for a takedown. So you've got to have a worst case scenario. You can't just say, well, I would never let anyone get that close to me because let's
That's
face
the
it.
goal. That's not
Exactly.
reality.
Exactly. So
And that is true.
now there are
I'll say right now, I'm not just here to like dump on these guys. If they do something good, if they say something good, I'm going to say, oh yes, that's true, and what they just did was good. But you're gonna find that it's very rare that I'm gonna actually say that about any of this stuff.
martial artists, ultimate fighters who basically they make their living being able to sprawl really well to avoid the takedown. They call it sprawl and brawl, and then they'll beat the heck out of the guy that's coming in.
No, they don't.
Let's face it, most cops are not going to be as well versed at sprawling. I mean, if you have a wrestling background, you may have a good idea of how to sprawl, but I think that may be a little advanced for the average officer to be able to do. I mean,
So since the average officer isn't that good at sprawling, they just need to not bother learning it at all. Is basically what it sounds like this guy is already starting to get at. I don't want to put too many words in his mouth and things like that. We are kind of cutting him off, but that's just what it sounds like, is him being like, hey, I mean, look, the average police officer probably wasn't a wrestler in high school or college, so we don't need to go ahead and teach them basic wrestling. He said that sprawling is too advanced. Sprawling is one of the first things you learn in a wrestling room in your freshman year of high school, or when you're doing little kids wrestling, when you're doing the wrestling for the 5-year-olds and stuff like that. That's one of the first things you learn how to do, is to be able to, and if you don't know what a sprawl is, basically you see the utility belt. What you're going to want to do is you're going to try and get that down to the ground, and the way you're going to do that is you're going to take these little booties here and you're going to send them that way, right? You're going to take your hands, put them on the ground. Basically, if you've ever seen a burpee, right? Or if somebody has ever gotten down for a push-up, right? They kind of just like drop down for a push-up really quick. That's actually very similar to it. There's a little bit more to it than that, but it's an extremely simple move. It is an extremely basic move in wrestling. And the fact that this guy is sitting here saying that that's too advanced, we're already off to an extremely horrible start. And this is one of the issues that the police have, is that whenever you tell them, hey, you have to learn something new, hey, you have to take a little bit of time, just like an hour of time a week even, to just learn this extremely basic unarmed combat technique or a concept that could help you or anything like that, they're just like, oh, whoa, that sounds a little bit too advanced for me, all right? And I'm Mr. Special Ops SWAT instructor patch guy for the police force. So, if it's too advanced for me, what do you think is going to happen to Officer Nasty over here, huh? If I can't get it, you think he's going to get it? Get out of here, dude. That's the way that they are. And this is exactly why you see so many videos of cops getting trashed by random dudes, It's crazy. It's insane to see. Let's go ahead and continue, though.
without significant training.
If you don't invest hours in it,
Exactly.
it's not a skill you maintain.
Yeah, and it's not that you couldn't train yourself to have a great sprawl, but this is for people who may not have
That is their hobby.
exactly. So if you
It's not your hobby, bro. It's your profession. This is your profession. You could be hurt and killed by this. And this guy's sitting here saying, hey, it's not your hobby. You don't need to learn it.
start to see a takedown coming in, well, how will you see that? Because you'll see the stance widen.
Lower
You'll
their center of gravity.
Exactly. And when that happens, one of the basic things you want to do, hopefully it would be sort of instinctive, is to get one leg back. That is widening your base. If both of my feet are together, let's say I'd have a poor interview stance and I'm kind of facing you like this with both of my feet here. If you grab both my feet, we know what's going to happen. We know how that story is going to end with me on my back and probably hitting pretty hard. So you can pre-stage this by having a good interview stance to begin with, but
see, and this is the other thing. Like this guy is setting the pace. I didn't even mean for him to set the pace for us, to set the tone. in the way that he is. But have you ever heard of anything called an interview stance? That's a very esoteric thing that I did not know was a thing until this video, right? I didn't watch this entire video. I skipped around and I was like, yeah, this is going to be one that I show them. An interview stance is a very esoteric thing that I'm sure is just a police officer thing. That's what this sounds like. It probably is just how they're standing when they're talking to a civilian and things like that. This is the problem with the police, is that they have all these little concepts and techniques and things like that that aren't really designed to do very much other than either just intimidate somebody or to give them this weird state of mind or something else, right? That at the end of the day doesn't really mean much. How you're standing when you're interviewing someone, 9 times out of 10 is not really going to matter that much. Because at the end of the day, if I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to take this cop down, I'm going to fuck this cop up, the way that you're standing isn't really going to do that much if you don't know how to actually defend against a takedown. So while I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, like being ready, having a ready stance, that's what we call it in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. When we teach the kids anti-bullying stuff, we talk about ready stances, right? And that's basically what this guy is doing. There's nothing wrong with being in a ready stance. I mean, obviously, he probably isn't going to want to be sitting here like, so what did the perpetrator look like, right? That's probably not a good thing. But there's nothing wrong with the concept that he's sharing with us right now. It just shows that there has been more thought put into talking to people and whether or not you look like a cop, whether or not you feel like a cop, whether or not you feel that you're emanating authority. There has been more thought put into that than there has the actual important things that they need to know, which is how to sprawl. I'm sure this guy is the best interview stance guy in his entire department, maybe even his entire state, right? Maybe even his entire state. But when it comes down to it, if I was a psycho with my skill set, this guy doesn't stand a chance. The only thing that would help him is his gun. That's it. That's fucking it. Right? And luckily for him, and luckily for me too, right? I don't want to be crazy, obviously, right? I'm not fucked up like that. I'm not just going to assault a cop. But not everybody's like me. You know? Not all bad guys don't know how to fight. And not all MMA fighters are right in the head. You know? So David, right? The gimmick of making up little lingo to make your field seem more exclusive and hard to understand or get into is so lame. Yeah, and that's partially what this is, right? I'm sure a bunch of different cops all around the country know what the term interview stance is. They were probably taught that in the police academy. But when it comes down to it, 99% of these cops could get dunked on. And they're sitting here trying to talk about like this weirdo shit. It's just it's ridiculous. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna keep on looking at this.
If someone lowers themselves like that, you need to be lowering yourself, because now I'm giving you essentially one leg. You know, a good sprawl might be if you start to come in and I'm going to shoot both legs back and sprawl and drive you down. But again, that may be a.
All right, let's take a look at this.
And I'm going to shoot both legs.
Wow. Okay. So he basically did 1/10 of a real sprawl. Okay. I ended up describing what a sprawl was a minute ago, and he basically did the very beginning part of it. What he needs to do from here is get his boots further back and get his hips further to the ground. Now, you notice what he's doing here, right? This, with his arms, is not actually the worst thing in the world to do. The only thing is, just like the sprawl, he's only doing about 1/10 of what he actually needs to be doing. His elbows need to be down in here if he's going to end up catching the dude on his forearm and the elbow. His elbows need to be down here. That way they're actually stopping this guy from going forward. If this guy was actually shooting in for a takedown right now, what would happen is Officer Cargo over here would end up putting his hands on the back and this dude would go right underneath and his hands would slip off and there would be absolutely nothing he could do to stop the takedown. He would just get taken down and that's it. So this guy thinks that's what a sprawl is. That is absolutely crazy. And it's funny because he thinks that that's so esoteric, that that's so advanced that you can't teach that to an officer. First off, you don't want to teach that to an officer. That is incorrect technique, right? You don't want to teach it to an officer. But even if you were going to teach that, you think that is too advanced? How lazy are you, bro? How lazy are the cops on your force? How lazy is your chief? What is your guys' problem? What is your deal? What are you guys doing? You know? Jeez, dude. I'd shoot in on this guy. I'd take him down, and I'd take his fucking watch, and he would not be able to do anything about it. You know, it's crazy. That's obviously a joke. Like I said, I don't condone violence against the police. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because I want to highlight this. Because I actually know somebody. I have a family member who's going to be a cop, and he's doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I didn't even tell him to. He just kind of knew. He's like, yeah, I should probably do this. Good on him, right? I don't want to see cops getting fucked up. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. Not only is it just like insane and I want to highlight it, but also if there's cops out there who think this works, hopefully they see what I'm saying. Probably won't, but hopefully they do, and hopefully they take it to heart.
Back and sprawl and drive you down. But again, that may be a little more dynamic than some officers are capable of pulling off.
And if you miss,
then
you
you're
just
going
face planted in front of the bad guy.
True.
Our officers are
What I would
morons.
suggest is as someone lowers themselves,
They can't handle
come
this.
back here, and as you start to shoot in, now you're only offering one leg essentially. Here you're able to drive him down. You can try to hook his head or whatever you're going to do, but you're trying to get, as he continues to take down, go ahead and get to one knee. I may, fight him like this.
The only reason he didn't take you, the only reason he didn't take this guy down is because he wasn't trying to take this guy down. He literally let him have the single leg, and he just ended up compacting himself in a way that wasn't actually going to make it harder for Officer Blackshirt here to end up getting the takedown. If anything, it was going to be easier for Blackshirt to get the takedown. It's just crazy. And we're going to see what happens next. Let's go ahead. I won't keep blabbing too much.
And ultimately, I may be able to maintain my balance, and I'll keep striking him until he lets go or until he takes me down.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not, bro. Maybe not. In fact, definitely not. This is like that. This is that Wing Chun tier stuff. If you see Wing Chun guys try and tell you how they deal with a takedown, that's typically how they do it. Is they're like, oh, I'd just start punching them in the back. I'd start punching them in the back of the head, and then they test it out. They get taken down and absolutely pounded on, and that's what would happen to this cop. That is exactly what would happen to this police officer. This is not something that you should do. If you do this, you will end up getting hurt. And if you sit here and you try punching the dude that's taking you down, chances are he's just going to be more angry at you, and he's going to end up trying to fight you harder, right? So you're not actually stopping anything. You're just making it worse because the young lawyer or the young doctor, right, who is going to try and take you down is he's just going to be more angry at you now. Before he was just afraid that you were going to take him to jail. Now he's pissed off at you because you're trying to throw punches at him, right? It's just crazy. Let's see what other genius takes this gentleman has.
Another option is that I actually may be taken to the ground. Now, if that happens, go ahead and grab hold, Frank, and
just
let's
maybe
grab and I do come to the ground. And
wow,
you
that's a
decide you
great
wanna
single
come down
leg
with me to the ground. If my legs were at least open, I have a chance of attaining a guard position where I'm a lot more safe. If, when he knocked me down,
that's true.
My feet were close together, like this, and he comes in and grabs both my feet and takes me down.
Holy shit, what a great double,
he's
bro.
Gonna wind up in the mount. So
that guy's
again,
a former Olympian.
Another reason to have that wide base when you think someone's going to try to shoot in on you. He comes in, I'm going to widen my stance and just start striking him there. High threat. If someone takes you down, you got to be able to deliver effective strikes to prevent that.
All right, so I said that he is correct. It would be better off to be in a guard where you can control the person, right? If I was, in fact, I'll go ahead, right? Where's there we go. So if I was this guy in that situation, right, and I'm sure he would agree with me, right? He probably already knows this. He seems to know what he's talking about in terms of trying to control someone from the bottom, right? At least in this situation. I would basically do what he's doing right there. I would have a hand on the head pulling the guy down so that he can't posture up. And in addition to that, I would be trying to control the arm that is on the side of my firearm, okay? And that's something that cops will tell you. That's something that I learned from watching cops talk about unarmed combat and things like that, is weapon retention is probably the number one thing that you're thinking about in terms of an unarmed combat situation where somebody is trying to fight you and things like that. It's a good thing, right? That is a good way to do it. I really don't have much to say negative about that little tidbit right there, but everything else is just terrible. It's awful, you know? And really, at the end of the day, a lot of police combatives is a mixed bag, and not in a good way. Not like 50-50, more like 70-30. 70 bullshit, 30 decent stuff. I won't even say good stuff. 70% like 30% like bad stuff. Maybe even more. Maybe even like 80-20, 90-10, maybe even something like that. But we got more. All right? We got more. All right? I was watching some shit posts before this. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and hold on. Sorry, one sec. I heard some kind of bang. I just want to make sure it was nothing too big or anything like that. I have a feeling I know exactly what it is. Anywho, I feel like a major I feel like a major issue that police have is staffing pool. I know plenty of good grapplers who would do the job but can't since they toke up. Literally wipes most no-gi guys from the pool. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I necessarily want cops to be smoking weed like that. I will say that much. But the other issue is that there's a lot of politics in the police world. It's like I said, a lot of police offices, a lot of police departments, they purposefully try to hire ex-military guys, right? And that's kind of like one of the benefits of being in the military is that when you get out, as long as you're not a complete dickhead, you have basically a guaranteed job as a cop in some department somewhere, most likely your hometown, right? I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world to have something for guys that are coming back from the military and things like that, right? But with that said, there is a certain in and out group inside of a lot of police departments. And I've met people who are kind of in that in group because they made buddies with the right guys in the department, or maybe it's a father-son thing, right? And I'm not saying those people are like bad guys. They're just trying to play the game so that they can make sure they have a job that they don't absolutely positively despise, right? I don't have anything against it necessarily. But I have seen people who they end up getting a job at their department and they're not very well liked. And there's certain treatment that they get, and there are certain things that they are not allowed to get away with that certain other people do get away with. And it's a situation where it makes it difficult for anybody who is not going to fit into that in-group inside of the department in whatever town in the USA. It makes it difficult for them to really get a job in the first place. So like that staffing pool, for one thing, you already have a situation where being a police officer is a job that you should be doing because you want to help people and because you have a passion for law enforcement and things like that. But there's only so many of those guys to go around. The majority of all police departments are going to be people who They just didn't quite know what to do with their lives. And they got out of college. They thought they were going to make the NFL draft, but dude, they just didn't. They just weren't good enough. They just weren't good enough for it. And because of that, they're like, fuck, what do I do with my life now? Well, I mean, I took a criminal justice major. I guess I might as well become a cop. Like, that's what happens a lot of the time. Either that or, like I said, ex-military coming back. The Corps was their life, man. And now they don't got the Corps no more. And they don't quite know what to do now. So they're just like, whatever, I guess I'll become a cop, Being a cop is like being a Marine, except, there's a lot less shoot first, ask questions later. I do get to walk around and, search people and do raids and stuff like that. That reminds me of Fallujah. So, I guess I'll just go ahead and I'll do that, couldn't hurt. That's kind of what it ends up being. I need to be ready to go the distance with Officer Goofus. Yeah, don't worry, bro. The distance with Officer Goofus is about one takedown. You get one takedown and that's a distance with Officer Nasty, Don Jelly says he's listening to this while running a couple of miles. Damn, that's good, dude. I can only listen to music. I either listen to music or I just raw dog my pain. I don't listen to music. I just kind of meditate on how much I hate running, but also how much I hate being out of shape more. When I do run without headphones in. So he would be grabbing the guy's wrist on the forearm side and pulling his head down with the other arm. Yeah, to the best of his ability. If he could, one thing he could do, right? If he has the head here and the arm is here, and this is the side, right? This is the side that his gun is on. If he could get the other dude's arm over to the other side, if he could do what's called a throw-by, right? Or as close to a throw-by as possible, right? He could throw the arm by, so now it's on this side and it cannot access. There is literally nothing other than the officer himself that can access this side that the firearm is on, right? He can then gable grip, right? And then there's even sweeps and things you can do, right? You could sit there, you need to be able to see my bottom half, but you can do sweeps and things like that so that you end up rolling over and now you're on top, right? That's the benefit of jiu-jitsu. Not so much wrestling in that situation, but there's many, many benefits to having a wrestling background as well. And if you can't do wrestling, if you haven't done wrestling, if you just never did, and you can't find a place that allows old men to wrestle, right, then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be the next best thing. And if you can find a gym where there's either a bunch of former wrestlers or maybe even the instructor himself is a good wrestler. Excuse me. Burping here. Geez, Chief. Geez. My chief wouldn't let me carry a street sweeper M4, dude. It's fucking ridiculous, bro. How am I supposed to get the fucking suspects, bro? I can't fucking shoot them? Dude, this is fucking dumb, bro. Anyway, so, here... Again, turn the volume up just a little bit. I want you guys to be able to hear things, right? This is lockup police combat. And I watched this video, right? This is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about with the whole everything has to be tactical, right? Go ahead. I'm going to give you a second, right? Think about what lockup could potentially mean. The term lockup, right? Think about what it could potentially mean. I'm going to count down from 10. All right, here we are. So, we're going to go ahead, we're going to press play, and you're going to see what lockup stands for. Whoa!
Lockup. Law officers, combat kinetics, unarmed panoply.
Whoa! Law officers, combat kinetics, unarmed panoply. This is what I'm talking about. Lockup has to be an acronym, and it has to have some weird scientific shit strewn in the middle of it. Kinetics. Whoa. Law officers combat kinetics. It's scientific. We know the right way to do things. And then panoply. Have you ever heard the word panoply? Or how did he say it?
Law officers combat kinetics on armed panoply.
Yeah, panoply. Have you ever heard the word panoply in your life? Does anyone know what that means? Panoply. I had to Google it. Turns out it means a full suit of armor. That's the I didn't like do a bunch of like extensive research or anything like that, right? But this guy really needed a P word to finish that acronym, to finish the lockup acronym. So he was like, oh dude, what do I do? He whipped open a thesaurus and he was like, panoply. Panoply, a full suit of armor. Panoply. Shoot. Let's see what else I can find. And he couldn't find anything. So he was just like, all right, shoot, man. I guess we're just doing it. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead, right? So you can just see this, right? Panoply. Panoply. It's just, I know I'm harping on this like extra. It's just because it's the quintessential example of how you can't just say unarmed combat. You can't just say self-defense with the cops. It has to be some sort of military or tactical SWAT type of thing, right? It's insane. You know, a couple of guys who look like they're probably supposed to be Marine silhouettes. They're not even cop silhouettes. They're supposed to be Marines, right? Because whoever made this was probably a Marine. Oh.
Law officers, the system is designed for and by law enforcement.
Protect the neck. Cover the eyes.
Peekaboo.
Ear to ear. Put them here.
Nobody fights like law
All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We're going to go back, right?
enforcement.
Protect the neck. Cover the eyes. Ear to ear. Put them here.
Did you guys notice something there? This dude right here, was he resisting? Was he doing anything crazy? Nah, he was just fucking chilling there, right? And it's always ridiculous when you see these dudes who are martial arts guys, right? They're Aikido guys, or they're Wing Chun, or whatever, right? They're doing these moves on somebody who is not resisting at all, and sometimes they're even going with the situation. This is the other thing with police combatives, right? This guy was not doing anything. Now, if it's bad enough when it's a martial arts guy doing that, think of the ramifications of a police officer doing this. You're just sitting here chilling, you're talking to a cop, blah, 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 blah. No, officer, I'd really rather not have my backpack searched. Thank you very much. Oh, what the hell? What's going on? Right? That's what this guy is training to do. That's what this guy is training those guys to do, right? Now, when he does this, I'm sure he's sitting here saying, oh, well, this is for if you have somebody who is just not complying. You would use this, right? I'm sure that's what he's prefacing it for, but the way he's using it, the way he's using his little cover the eyes and pull them backwards rapidly thing, it's not actually going to be able to be used on somebody who is really trying to resist. Because for one thing, nobody is going to actually sit here and allow you to do that to them. So the only way that you're going to end up doing this to somebody is if they're not resisting, is if they're just sitting here minding their own business, or maybe they're talking to your partner and they're saying some stuff that you don't exactly like. So you just decide you're going to break that barrier. You're going to turn this kinetic, as the K in lockup stands for, and you're just going to take this dude, you're going to violate his personal space and start absolutely just going at him. And for another thing, this specifically, what happens when Mr. Blackshirt over here does what anyone would do in that situation, which is go, whoa, what the hell? What's going on here? What are you doing, bro? What happens when that ends up happening and your fingernails end up digging into his eyes and there's some kind of damage done, right? That could be permanent damage here. And you're sitting here telling your boys, oh yeah, totally, this is a good move to do on somebody. It's going to be good for resisting. Yeah, you're going to get dudes fired, you're going to get dudes arrested, and you're going to get departments and individuals sued with your bullshito, with your tactical bullshito. I'm using that term, tactical, right? It's you know, I'm gonna use it so much today that you're gonna be nauseous. You're gonna be like, dude, stop saying it. Just say tactical, all right, please. It was funny the first time, not really, but the reason I'm using it is because it really does just describe this so perfectly. This guy sat here, right, Mr. I don't know if we got his name, right, gray hair man. Mr. Gray hair man sat here thinking about all the cool things he saw in John Wick, and he was like, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that, and I want to go ahead and start trying to think of things on my own, right? And this is what he ended up coming up with. Potentially blind him by grabbing his face around the eyes and pull him backwards when he's not doing anything. Let's keep going, though. We're only 17 seconds into this. Think of what we're about to see here.
Nobody fights like law enforcement does.
This form of instruction is one of the best for the 21st century officer.
Shut up, Edward.
Filled a gap that has been missing in law enforcement for a long time.
No, it didn't.
See, we have a different objective. A self-defense, all we have to do is defend ourselves and flee the area. But as a law enforcement or the security operations, we need to
That was not beautiful.
do
Again,
is defend ourselves
look at
and
this.
flee the area.
Dude's just chilling there. Dude's just chilling there, right? This guy tries to sweep the leg, doesn't quite work, so he pushes on the leg. People don't just sit there and allow you to do these things. Again, the precedent that is being set here, regardless of the stated goal, is to physically aggress upon someone who is not actually doing anything to deserve it currently.
But as a law enforcement or the security operations,
That would
we need
never
to
work.
control and restrain the individual.
Come in here, pull leg up, right down, pivot as much as I can.
This is police combat. This is not defensive tactics.
Teaches you control.
You guys are idiots, and I would fuck each of you up.
Understand the totality of your circumstances.
Law enforcement has completely different variables.
What even is this? You see what I'm talking about, right? Now, maybe they're doing this because, like, oh, sometimes it's going to be nighttime. But overall, what is this doing? This is just a way to make them feel like they're in some kind of weird tactical training thing. You know, they're in the shoot house. They're in the shoot house, and the guy, their drill instructor, said that they have to take down the OP4, that they can't use the simunition that's in their real guns to shoot the OP4 or anything like that. They have to take them down. And this is what it is. They think they're in the shoot house right now.
Variables. First of all, the limited amount of training that they have. Secondly, restrictive uniforms. Third,
Those are some
use
awful
of force
elbows.
Oversight, review, force continuums, Graham versus Connor. They have restrictive policies and procedures pertaining to that.
I've used this system many times, deployed many of their tactics, and not one time.
All right, so this one was actually kind of interesting, all right? This one was actually kind of interesting. We're going to take a look at this one, right?
Restrictive policies and procedures pertaining to that.
Okay, so first off, this guy starts off with a push, right? This officer should have never let this guy get close enough to push him in the first place, right? This is. I'm not saying that like everything's always going to be perfect all the time. It's going to end up happening, right? But you have to be able to try your best to not have that happen, and you do need to know how to handle it, right? And that's what this next step is supposed to be. Now, what I will say is that it's not really realistic that Mr. Greenshirt here is going to push him and then start poking him, right? When people attack cops, it tends to be sort of an all or nothing sort of situation. It's not some situation where somebody's getting in somebody's face. This is a bar fight, what's going on right now. This is not a situation with a cop, because typically when people fight a cop, it's either to try and get away, which this guy is not trying to get away, or it's to absolutely positively beat the cop. There is going to be an overwhelming aggressive force that is applied, not a shove and then, hey, grr, not that, right? So even this right here, even though I'm about to say something interesting, right? This right here is still not realistic to what an officer could expect to experience in the field, right?
Use this system.
So this right here, this is actually interesting because this is a wrestling and a jiu-jitsu thing. It's called an arm drag, and you're going to see what ends up happening.
Many times.
So you see he ends up getting turned around. That's actually pretty cool, and that is something real. Now, the issue that I have is that this guy lets go of the arm drag, and he ends up transitioning to the shoulders. That's not going to be something he's really going to be able to do anything with, because at the end of the day, this guy, he's not just going to allow him to turn him around completely. When I hit arm drags on people who don't expect them to occur, right, that's not the way that it works, right? There is some form of resistance. The idea of an arm drag is that you're going to get somebody when they don't expect it, but about halfway through the arm drag, they're going to be like, oh man, he's doing something. I better tense up, right? In addition to that, when you end up hitting an arm drag, right, even if you do get him all the way around, you're not going to want to take your hands completely off of him and then replace them wherever you want to go. What you're going to want to do, right, if you see my hands, I'm going to hit the arm drag, right, and then the free hand is going to come around and I'm going to wrap the person up. And then the hand with the arm drag, right, is going to end up doing this. This is called a Gable grip, all right? I believe it's named after Dan Gable. I don't know any other Gables out there, so I'm going to assume it's named after Dan Gable, right? One of the best to ever do it in wrestling. Even when these guys get something right, it's like they only get 1/10 of it. They only get 1/10 of what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to know. I almost combined those two words. And it's just crazy to see. It's just terrible to see. These guys, all these guys right here are going to end up getting hurt. And I'm sure one of them has some story about one time that there was some gigantic fluke where their arm drag saved them. And I'm willing to bet that the only reason why it saved them is because the other guy was not actually trying to fight. It's just like in the first move that we saw where the dude ends up having the hands put over his eyes, right? The only reason that would ever work is because the person they were doing it to was not actually trying to resist either at all, or they just weren't trying to resist that much, right? It's not even that they were trying to resist. It's just that, they just weren't complying fast enough for the officer's wishes.
I've deployed many of their tactics, and not one time have I personally ever experienced an injury to myself or to the person I was taking under control.
The
Yeah,
class
sure
has
thing.
taught me how to further protect the officer and
Jeez. Everybody knew a guy who looked like that in high
The
school.
combative kinetic movements are designed to fit the needs of the officer.
Combat
to hold this
kinetics.
individual,
That would never
whether
work.
arrest, control, or control and restraint. Unarmed, because it starts off as an unarmed system. Everything needs to be integrated.
There's that arm drag.
From communications, you have to know how to communicate.
So that mount escape,
Manipulate it.
I didn't get a good look at it, but I don't think it was necessarily the worst thing.
Physical combative program. Or if
I don't
you
know what the hell
go
that's
on and
supposed to be.
that doesn't work,
Oh, this. I love
you
this
might have
one.
to go to a physical combative program. Or if you
Here, what is the point of this? What is the point of this, right? So what he's doing is he's taking the baton and he's pressing it down against the Achilles, the calf, that general area. That's a submission in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a calf crush or, an Achilles crush, right? I forget. I believe it's just called an Achilles crush. Man, whatever. I'm not a leg lock specialist. I actually need to start getting into them a little bit more because I'm a brown belt now. I'm legally allowed to do certain leg locks in competitions and things like that. But this right here, there is no actual control over this guy right here, right? I'm wondering what this is. I almost wonder if it's a situation where they're just like, hey, I want everybody to feel how this feels. Right? Maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but I don't want to give these guys too much out, right? I don't want to give these guys too much of an out. There is nothing that this is going to achieve. This guy is just going to pull his leg out, get up and run, right? I don't even believe this guy is sitting on the dude's foot. And even if he was, he's not going to be able to do it in a way that's going to actually benefit him in any way, shape, or form. So right now, if this is being taught as a method of control, he's just teaching these guys how to cause a lot of pain for no reason, right? Or not even necessarily no reason, but basically for free, right? Basically, he's just teaching these guys how to cause a lot of pain and not actually be able to follow up on it or anything like that. It's crazy. And again, the theme here is that this would not work on somebody who doesn't want it to work. So if somebody is already laying on the ground and you bend down to go ahead and use your baton to apply pressure to the Achilles, right? You're literally just brutalizing the guy. He has followed through on what you want him to do. Even if he's not like, even if he's like flailing his arms around, he doesn't want you to get the cuffs on and things like that. There really isn't a need to do that. You should be on top of him about here, right? Or maybe you could even ride the legs. You could do the Habib thing. You could ride the legs so that he can't use his legs to build a base and get up, right? But you should be focusing on getting control of the arms, which is not that hard to do when you're in this position. And again, this is something that wrestling specifically is very good with, right? But let's continue.
If you use a baton and that doesn't work, you have to integrate into something different. If you use a taser, you might.
Oh, hold on.
If you use
Look at the way
a
this
baton,
dude
that doesn't
rolls.
work. You have to integrate into something different. If you use a taser,
Flopping like a
you have to
fish,
integrate
bro.
into something different.
And he's actually simplified it to a point that we can actually train our deputies in a more effective manner.
They really like
Then
wrist
we can
locks.
actually employ it on the street, and we're actually seeing a higher
Wow.
retention rate and actually
That will not work.
employing it more.
Still don't know what that
The
is.
complete shining array of a warrior. The navy blue uniform, the green uniform, the shield upon your chest.
Ah, you see?
Trust me, the ultimate warrior is the one to get his opponent to concede without the use of violence.
You see?
Unfortunately, in law enforcement, you need to be prepared to do violence for the protection of a third party or yourself. Lockup is designed for law enforcement security operations. Why you should use it is because it's evidence-based. That means it's not theory. All these techniques have been proven to be effective in the field.
No, they haven't.
Training is not to be measured by how you succeeded in the classroom or in the gym. Training is only to be measured by post-training events in the real world. If they can't give you quantifiable evidence of success, guys, you might want to start looking. We need to prove realism in what's going to affect, and that's what lockup is.
The system works. I would definitely recommend this class to any supervisors.
Hey, you're just
That-
standing there?
any-
Bang! Kick out the knee.
You can reach us on our website at policecombat.com or feel free to call us directly.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back real quick, right? Because I noticed something. Does that look familiar? What did I just get done talking about? So you have Officer 1, Officer 2, Officer 3, right? Officers 1 and 2 both have the guy's arms. Officer 3 is pushing down on the head. What the hell is fuckhead over here doing? Why is he applying a submission right now? I understand if he wants to tie up the legs, right? Maybe he can ride the legs, or maybe he can take the legs and he can put them in a position where it's gonna take away leverage from this guy right here, so that he can't move the legs. I understand that, you know. I mean, if you're there, you might as well help out, right? You might as well be of some use, I guess, right? But what the hell is the point of this? He's got this leg right here too. You're gonna have another baton. You're gonna be like both legs like pressuring down. No, it's just pointless stuff put in there for no reason at all. Just cause they thought, hey, you know what, this could use an Achilles lock. You know, these absolute morons. It's just like, wow. David says, I teach CAKJ. It stands for Combat Action Kinetic Je ne sais quoi. Dude, you might as well, dude. You might as well make something like that, right? Because you could probably make tons of money off of teaching cops in some random fucking state, right? Some random state where the people don't know what the hell good unarmed combat is, which is most, if not all of them, actually, if we're just being honest here, you know? I will say that, cops in my state, they've started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Of course, it's an insular thing, right? The black belt who teaches the classes is a cop, right? So you don't have these cops that are like, hey, let's go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym and train with the peons, the civilians, the civilian scum. Let's train with them. No. You don't have that, right? You have a situation where it's a black belt cop who is sitting there and teaching these guys. And there's benefits to that. Don't get me wrong, right? The police have certain rules of engagement. And because of that, a black belt cop is going to know which techniques are actually going to benefit them. So I'm not saying that it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not just stuff like that. It truly is because these cops, like I said, they need things like lockup. They need to be in a room full of a bunch of other law enforcement officers and military guys and other things like that. Because if they're not, then they feel weird, right? And it's not because it truly is weird. I've never seen a cop walk into a gym and get treated differently just because they're a cop. You can usually tell who the cops are. Cops carry themselves in a certain way, right? I've never seen them get treated differently, even when they're like, yeah, I'm a cop. I've never seen a cop go into a gym and say, yeah, I'm a cop, and then they get like chased out because it's like a BLM gym, because it's an Antifa gym or something like that, right? That's crazy. You know, what it really is that these people, they get this idea in their head that they're super tactical SWAT operators. They're operator whatever, right? That's what it is in their heads. And because of that, they don't want to deal with the people who they got out of work at their desk job, or there's some kid who is fresh out of high school and things like that. They don't want to get beat up by civilians that they know that they might end up having to arrest one day. That's literally a thing, you know? Un momento, por favor. Sorry it took me so long, baby. I just got back to you.
You done?
No, I'm not. No. Trying to get dinner figured out while I do this. That's kind of the thing about Sundays, is that when I do these streams, it's kind of a weird situation. I'm hoping we'll get to New Vegas today. Like, I want to get to New Vegas. If we can just get to the beginning of going into the whatever it's called, going into the Sierra Madre, then we'll do that. Oh no, wait, no. We might not actually get to New Vegas today. I'm gonna try to make sure we do. I don't want to go any longer than 2 hours. All right, we got about 10 minutes until it's an hour and a half. Hopefully I'll be able to get it done. I'll try and rush through this so that we can get it done quick. All right. But anyway, yeah. I'm Detective Don, and this is my combat-oriented Chiaroscuro killing fatality integrated technique encyclopedia. Welcome to Cockfight. Holy shit, dude. Oh man, that's fantastic, bro. You gotta make that into a skit. You gotta make that into a skit. All right, but anyway, this is the end of Lockup, right? If you guys want to go, you know what? I'm curious. I'm fucking curious. I'm not gonna prank call him. Right? I'm just curious. 860-436-6975. If it rings one more time without going to an answering machine, I'll go ahead and I'll stop it.
You have reached KFD Training, PoliceCombat.com. After the tone, please leave your name and contact information. A representative will return your call as soon as possible.
All right, so yeah, it's they are still a thing, right? They are still a thing. Anyway, so hold on. Yep, nope. All right, this is the last one. All right. It's 6 minutes long. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna watch it, and then we'll have time for at least a half hour of New Vegas. Again, turn this up just a little bit. So this right here is IPSA seminar, or International Police and Security Association seminar. Let's go ahead. Jeez, that lettering. Krav Maga Tenorite? Alright. So this is the classic Krav Maga. Everybody thinks fighting is like a movie type of thing, right? Right here. And you know what? Just in case, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to end up muting this. Just in case, right? I keep getting bopped for like different things, including copyright, right? So I want to try and make sure I don't get screwed on it too much. Anyway. So this right here. He throws the punch, right? He ends up stepping through on the punch. Even untrained people don't step through on their punches, right? So what I mean by this is right here. So you see this is his back leg, this is his back arm. Let's see what ends up happening. He ends up stepping through with the widest non-punch you have ever seen, and now his back leg is his front leg. Now, Mr. Krog McGrog guy here, right? He ends up blocking what is literally the easiest punch to block in the history of the world. He ends up putting an arm here, and he ends up throwing a knee right up the middle. That's not how fighting works. Nobody is going to throw a punch and leave it out there like that. First off, if they throw a punch, they're going to throw it like that, right? Either that, or sometimes you have people who throw punches like that, like they're swinging a hammer, right? But nobody throws a punch like that, right? It's just not something that happens. And when they do, right? When they do, they aren't throwing it so that their hand is like as straight. Their arm is as straight as this guy's arm right there. That was thrown not to be a punch that was actually meant to land, but it was meant to be basically a verbal cue. Or not a verbal cue, but a physical cue to let this guy know that it's time to knee him in the groin. That's really what that was. This would not work, right? There are ways to make things like this work. Like in Muay Thai, right? What you'll see sometimes, this is like a really high level technique. You don't just see like regular old guys doing this. Is someone throws a cross, right? You parry the cross, come around here, and you throw a knee right up the middle. That is something that you can do, but the thing is, it's not happening as soon as the fight starts. That's something that tends to happen later on in the fight because you now have the distance you need and you have the timing of the other guy. That's when that happens. It's not going to be a situation where this guy ends up throwing a very round sucker punch and you end up springing into action and you end up throwing the knee. And the reason why that's not going to happen is because you have to anticipate that. You have to be absolutely positively sure that that's going to be what ends up happening, and that's going to be one of, and if not the correct answer. And you absolutely positively cannot do that, because what if this guy is a lefty? All of a sudden he's throwing with this arm, and you're trying to still defend this arm. This guy goes to defend this arm, but now it's this arm coming around. He ends up getting smashed, right? It's insane. It's just crazy, you know? What the hell was that, dude? So he ends up with the takedown. That takedown would work, though it wouldn't work the way that he thinks it does, because it's the usual thing where somebody's just sitting there letting it happen to them, right? But that outside trip or that outside reap, whatever it was specifically, that is a real thing, right? I actually have a certain way that I do it myself, right? But then this, like, that's not going to happen. Nobody's just going to get taken down and then be like, oh, all right. If this guy truly was trying to fight, right? As soon as he gets taken down, he's going to try and get up. That's what's going to end up happening, right? Or maybe if he has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, he's going to end up pulling a guard or something like that. You're not going to have control of his arm enough as to where you can do this weird thing where you end up like using his arm as a fulcrum, right? Or whatever it is, a lever, right? And his whole body goes whoosh. Not going to happen. And then we have this weird arm lock thing. So this right here is interesting. I remember seeing this because I put it in the video. You see what's going on here? Now, you can't really hear what's being said, but you can see by what is going on. Basically, this guy is just chilling here. He's not actually controlling this dude. He's on top of him with both knees, right? This is actually banned in a lot of places now because of a certain instance of it being used a few years ago in this certain situation that occurred. But let's say it was still legal, and let's say it was still widely in use, right? This guy's sitting here, he's got a knee here, a knee there, and he's got the arm here. So what are you doing just sitting there not actually arresting the guy? Why aren't you controlling anything else? Instead, you're going to sit here, you're going to slap him, and he's going to do it on his own just because there's a lot of pain there? No, that's not how that works. Typically, if somebody is very afraid for their life, when you apply some kind of painful position to them, they just struggle harder. Because in their mind, they're not thinking, oh, if I just comply, the pain will stop. They're thinking, oh man, this guy is going to break my arm. If I don't fight to get out of this, my arm's going to get broken. And that's kind of the thing that people don't really understand when it comes to these things is there's two people who each have their own idea of what is happening and what should happen. And instead of trying to work with each other, right, which you can do that in this situation, you just say, hey man, look, I'm not going to hurt you. You just got to do what I need you to do right now, right? There is a much higher chance that if this guy would just explain himself instead of slapping the dude in the kidney and saying, give me your other arm, right? Instead of doing it that way, this guy would be a lot less combative, right? But they never do it that way. Instead, they just yell, stop resisting, stop resisting. And you're going to notice in the video that I release that I end up saying, when somebody hears stop resisting and they're in this situation, they don't think it means stop resisting and I will stop making you feel pain. What it really sounds like is stop trying to keep me from breaking you. Stop trying to keep me from hurting you. I'm going to hurt you. Stop trying to resist that. That's what it sounds like. And these guys wonder why they run into so many problems all the time. It's because this is really a humiliation ritual to them, right? Criminals, they're known for their humiliation rituals. You know, they rob somebody, and after they rob the person, they start beating the hell out of them, and they laugh, and they're stomping on the dude's head and all this other stuff, right? You see that, and as time goes on, it's becoming increasingly more common because the psychology behind criminality is changing. Not that it was much different from what it was years ago, but it's changing to become more violent and more nihilistic and more egoistic on the end of the people who are committing the crimes, right? But this is the police officer's version of a humiliation ritual. It's not enough that I have control of you. You now have to listen to me when I tell you to give me your arm. And you gotta take your legs and you gotta bend them so that you can't use them. And you have to be under my complete control. That's what this is. It's not police training. It's humiliation ritual training. That's what Blue Shirt here is doing. Just give him an old kidney slap. So here we have it again. Shit that just won't work. Wow, that was all right. All right, let's. Jeez, see, look at the way the arm bends, right? Now we can't see it very well, but if you end up bending that the wrong way, you could seriously end up injuring the dude. You could break the arm, or you could pop the shoulder out, right? I don't know exactly which way he ended up bending, but these people are all sitting here. This fucking idiot has wraps on. You came overdressed, you fucking moron. Get out of here. Go home. Fucking all these people, right? They're sitting here. This guy has had hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to practice this. He has done this and he has showed this at so many different seminars and things like that. These are all people that they're going to do this for 2 hours and then they're going to fucking move on. And they're going to remember it because they think it looks really cool and they're going to try it on their friend when they're practicing. Or, God forbid, they actually do have to use it on somebody in a real situation. They're going to end up fucking somebody up and they're going to get in serious trouble. It's very similar to the whole hands over the eyes thing from the lockup one, right? It's one of those things where somebody's going to be like, hey, that's pretty cool. I think I'll try and remember that. And then when they go to use it, something is going to end up zigging, right? When typically when they do this, they would expect a zag. If you understand what I'm saying. Instead of someone going left, they're going to end up going right. And then all of a sudden, there's going to be some kind of lawsuit brought against the jurisdiction as well as them personally, right? And this guy, you think this guy is going to care? No, he's not going to care. He's not going to donate to your legal defense fund or anything like that. He's going to be off doing another seminar somewhere else, teaching more bullshit. That's where he's going to be. So, what we had a second ago was that same arm drag, right? We already covered something like that. I don't have too much to say about it. Now, this is interesting. I want to go back to this, right? So, I don't necessarily have an issue with this, right? The first thing he did was try and get hands up. But the thing is, he's better off just coming here than here, right? Again, this is that typical Krav Maga bank on one thing and one thing only coming at you at any given time issue, right? That's one of the issues that Krav Maga has as a whole, right? You have this guy right here. His hands are up here. What happens when it's not one of these? What happens when it's one of these? Well, blue shirt is on his ass at best. At best, he's just on his ass, and then this guy is off running, right? Let's go ahead. So this is actually a technique that you could use, right? And I'm not saying in this situation, right? This arm lock right here. And in fact, there was a jiu-jitsu champion who ended up doing it to Sean Strickland. He did it in a very... He did it in a very messed up way though, and Sean Strickland almost ended up beating the hell out of him because it was not an okay thing to do. Sean was in training camp, and this guy was really being a dickhead about it. But so this technique in and of itself, I don't actually have a problem with. The problem that I have with it is that, again, he's banking on this technique actually being there. He's banking on this actually being something that he's going to be able to do when somebody ends up throwing their little wide looping haymaker. You can't bank on that. You just can't. Kick to the balls and a wrist lock that would never work. That would never work. They really love their groin kicks and their wrist locks. I don't know what it is. Oh, there we have it. There we go. There's always got to be some kind of pee-pee touch involved, right? So you're never going to, I won't even go back, right? You're never going to defend a punch and then be able to arm drag off of it. That's never going to be something that happens. Then in addition to that, when you end up arm dragging and you don't immediately secure the guy after the arm drag, like I said, you hit the arm drag, you reach around, all right? You give him the old reach around, all right? And then you come here and you lock up with the gable grip, right? If you don't immediately do that, you're never going to be able to literally give him the reach around, right? Or I guess in this case, it would be the reach through, grab him by the pee-pee, and then lift him up and take him down. That would never actually work. It's not something that you're going to be able to do, right? Because again, if this guy is actually trying to fight you, the second he feels that he has the room or just the general ability to, he's going to get the hell away from you, right? He knows, again, in his caveman brain, it's not a good thing to turn your back to the guy that you are in a fight with. And because of that, he's not going to sit here, get turned around and be like, oh, well, all right, I guess that's that. This means I'm winning, right? I'm winning right now, right? This means I'm winning. I don't have to do anything. I'm winning, right? He's not going to do that, right? Again, just banking on things that won't be there, banking on things that are impossible to do. Let's keep on going. Again, just pain for the sake of pain. Dude's having a good time with what looks like a fake gun. Same thing, will not work. Pain for the sake of pain. Pain for the sake of pain, and now he wants to be John Wick. Wow. Wow. Did you just see that? Hold on. All right, okay. I want to see what happens, all right? Keep an eye on the gun. Wow. Good one, bro. Fucking good one. Not gonna happen. It just will not happen. Again, what are you doing? Why aren't you getting him in handcuffs? Okay, so this, right? Like I said, I am not a leg lock specialist. I need to start kind of getting in on it, right? I really need to start. I need to talk to my black belt and be like, hey, look, I want you to show me a bunch of things, right? But this right here is called a calf slicer, right? If this guy is not careful, and in fact, if he accidentally, say, falls forward, or if he puts his weight in the wrong spot, this guy's calf is going to separate from the bone. It will end up, it will be bad. It will be really bad. There's a reason why leg locks and certain other submissions like bicep slicers, which is basically just the arm version of the calf slicer, you're not allowed to do them until you're a brown belt. And wow, look at what I just noticed. Wow, okay. Anyway, man. What the fuck, bro? There's a reason why these submissions are not allowed to be performed by people who are not brown or black belts, right? It's because if you, as a white belt, who can barely even control themselves on the ground, are sitting here slapping this type of thing in on somebody who is resisting or even not resisting, right? There's a huge chance you're going to end up falling over or you're going to move the wrong way and you're going to end up severing this person's calf or there could be some other serious injury that ends up occurring because of this, right? And here's this guy sitting here, okay, put him in the calf slicer and then pull your gun. Try not to accidentally jam the slide back this time. That'd be really good if you didn't end up doing that this time. He really has to. He's got to do the. It's like, why is your gun not cocked? Why are you not ready to rock and roll already? I understand having the safety on, but you should have one in the chamber already, bro. This guy is literally, he just wants to be John Wick. That's really what it is at the end of the day. You know, he saw John Wick 10 years ago. Jeez, it's been 10 years. That was like 2012, 2013, 2014, right? When John Wick 1 came out, I'm pretty sure. He saw that about 10 years ago and he was like, oh, dude, this is what I want to fucking do, man. I want to be John Wick. Yeah, put the gun to the dude's head. Cool. Again, not going to work. Calf slice. And now he's applying pressure. Oh, man. This guy really likes that move for some reason. Again, notice there was no actual, like, anything, right? It seems to be just showing the same moves over and over again at this point, right? There it is again. Oh. He slips. He tries to do it again. Doesn't work. He finally gets it the third time. So this is a method of control that you could utilize on somebody who is already handcuffed, or in other words, they're not resisting. We got another external cup guy. All right, just fucking sucker punch the dude. Are you gonna hit the DDT, bro, or was it the? I never watched wrestling when I was younger. I just know that it was a meme a while ago. Was it called the DDT or the DDP? I forget. Man. Oh no, wait, no. Fuck. See, like I said, I never watched wrestling. Man, fuck. What was it called? I know one of you guys knows what it was called. Go ahead and tell me. Alright, what's he gonna do with this fucking thing? Okay, that's all well and good, but why wouldn't you punch him in the head? Again, not actually going to work. These are all really good in theory, but they're not actually going to work in reality. Bottom line, I'm getting sick of there's a minute left. We'll finish it, but I'm getting sick of this dude's shit. It just looks so awful. This guy is just trash. I want to dojo storm this guy. I want to see if he's still doing these things. See, I don't know if I have an issue with that, actually. I don't know if it would work, but that, like, I guess in theory it would, but that's the thing, is that in theory all of these would work. And theory does not always equal out to reality. In fact, rarely does it ever. So while I personally don't have any issue with that, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh no, that's good, that would work. I think that would work. Using the baton to defend against the knife like that, I could see how it would work. But the reality of a lot of knife attacks is that it's not just going to be one. It's going to be literally that over and over and over and over and over again. So I guess on one hand, I could see how it wouldn't work. But on the other hand, I guess I could kind of sort of see how it could potentially maybe work, right? If you get lucky enough. If the other guy isn't trying as hard as he probably could, right? So jury's kind of out on that. You could lean either way, or at least I lean either way, right? But do you guys understand what I'm talking about now? I really hope you do. This is the exact type of stuff that cops in your hometown, cops in hometowns across the nation end up getting taught, and then they wonder why either A, they get their asses beat, or B, they end up hurting someone bad and they end up getting suspended or fired or sued for police brutality, right? For brutalizing citizens and things like that. It's absolutely insane. And as long as the police departments are going to, one, keep listening to the wrong people, but two, not be willing to accept outside help, they're never going to quite be able to fix the problem. Now, you're always going to have situations where somebody goes a little bit too far. You're always going to have situations where somebody does not go far enough, right? And I don't mean in hurting somebody else. I mean, you're like, for instance, there was a situation earlier where they were defending against somebody who ends up pushing the cop, right? That cop, in a situation like that, they did not go far enough to ensure their safety, right? They should have kept more distance between them and the person that they were interviewing at the time and things like that, right? That would be the ideal, right? And that's what I mean by there's always going to be situations where somebody doesn't go far enough, right? But the amount of them that occur nationwide, I guarantee you, could be cut down drastically if police officers would just stop with this whole cult of the thin blue line type deal. And this is not some kind of political statement either. I'm not trying to lay down on either side of any kind of political argument. I avoid politics as much as I can. But that is kind of the contributing factor, or it is a contributing factor to the issue, is that unless you're a cop, you're not allowed to talk about cops. And if you try to talk about cops, then, next time somebody breaks in your house, call a social worker. That's what they end up saying. Either that, or they jump down your throat and they say, well, why don't you try and become a cop? And, you can see how tough it is. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to become a cop. Yeah, I'm going to become a cop. They're going to let me into the police force, and they are 110% going to give me a fair shake. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to try and prove a point. First off, I'm going to become a cop just to prove a point. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to become a cop because I'm passionate about law enforcement. I'm not going to become a cop because I'm really trying to do some good in the world. I'm going to become a cop just because when I tried to talk to a police officer about unarmed combat techniques, he got defensive and started acting like a little fucking girl about it. That's what's going to happen. And then when I go in there and I tell them, yeah, I'm just here because I think I could do a better job than you guys, they're totally going to give me a fair shake after that. And then I'm going to end up in situations where I can totally prove that point. That's what's going to happen. Of course, none of that's going to happen, right? And that's why they're saying it. It's because it's their way of trying to diffuse a situation where they might actually have to admit that, all right, maybe we could do a better job, right? As long as that's the type of shit that keeps happening, these guys are going to end up getting fucked all the time. That's just how it is. That's how these people are, right? And I mean, hey, if they want to keep having that happen, if they want to keep on doing it, feel free. You know, it's no skin off my nose, right? Just don't brutalize me. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. You know, but other than that, hey, it's up to you. You know, I say in the video, the beatings will continue until morale improves. And obviously that is proverbial, right? But it can kind of sort of be literal in a way, because a lot of cops end up getting hurt every year, not because the perpetrator is some kind of like world-class fighter or anything like that, but because the cops are being foolish about a number of things, whether it's keeping distance between them and things like that, or if it's something as simple as not knowing how to sprawl correctly and other unarmed combat techniques. It is what it is, you know? You can't help some people. You can't help these kinds of people. And if you try to, they just hate you for it. So, what's the point? Anyway, 1 second. Baby. Baby. You asleep?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. We're waiting on dinner to get here, so I'm trying to figure out if we are going to do oh yeah. Uh-oh. All right. I'm trying to figure out if we are going to do Fallout today. We probably won't. I apologize for that. I'm going to check something real quick. I didn't realize I have a little alfalfa thing going on. Oops. Whoopsies. Oops. Sorry, guys. Whoops. It's called an Israeli forearm strike, dummy. Everyone knows Jews are the best fighters. Sure they are. Scott Mukbang. That's what I'll do. Dude, I'll do mukbang content. Are you kidding me? I'll sit here with giant squid and I'll just be like munching on it. I do like weird food like that. Like I actually do like squid quite a bit. It's pretty good. Oh, did they leave it out? Or,
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I was curious because I texted you and you got up right after. I was like, oh, must have been here. Yeah, it's looking like we're not going to get to New Vegas today, guys. I'm sorry about that. You know, I didn't think this was going to take that long, and it also didn't help that I spent a half hour talking about the UFC card yesterday. I really hope that you're not upset. My bad. I'll make it up to you. I'll make it up to you. I don't plan on skipping any Fallout New Vegas streams or anything like that anytime soon. I was originally gonna skip most likely next week's, right? Because a week from or next week, right? The Tuesday after this coming Tuesday is Halloween, right? So I was planning on Sunday doing a Halloween stream, but I decided that since I'm most likely going to start semi-regularly doing Friday night streams, I would do a Friday night Halloween stream. Friday night Halloween stream is what I would end up doing. So next week is, it's going to be full steam ahead. We're gonna do New Vegas. We might even be able to finish Dead Money next weekend, depending on how things go. I always forget exactly the timeline of Dead Money. It is what it is. It is what it is. Anyway, I'm not leaving right this second. Obviously, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna read some of these. I almost said tweets. What's it called? Anywho, yeah, I'm gonna read some of these comments. Scrambles says, I interviewed for a position at a police department, mentioned I would love to introduce more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style tactics to the department down the road. Should I get hired? Safer for officers and citizens. Good for you, Scrambles. That's good. That's really good, you know? If you're going to be a cop and you know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you might as well try and help out your guys and things like that, you know? Now, the thing that you have to understand is that there's going to be rules of engagement for you, right? And I'm sure you probably are aware of this to some degree, and you will be made more aware of it when you end up going through the police academy. But like, one of the challenges that my state faces in terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that any kind of choke, right, is not allowed. And the thing is, choke, the way that we think of it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is not exactly the way that it is defined in the state of Massachusetts, right? Basically, any kind of like pressure or any touching at all of the neck is a big no-go, right? It's not allowed, right? So like, if I'm wrestling with someone and I happen to like, post, right? Post meaning I put my hand down. You probably know this, right? And I end up putting it down on their neck here, right? This is not a choke. I'm not trying to choke them, but there is a real possibility that I could end up getting in serious trouble, and they would consider that under the law to be a choke. And now my department's being sued. I could potentially be being sued. I'm suspended with or without pay and potentially even fired because of it. So that's stuff that you have to be careful of. But 90% of jiu-jitsu will come in handy in some form, right? Almost all of wrestling as well will come in handy in some form, you know? If you have wrestling experience, you are predisposed to being good at the physical side of being a cop. And, you know, same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but especially wrestling, because wrestling is the art of control. There are no submissions in wrestling. You're not allowed to submit people, right? If you choke somebody, if you put an arm lock, if you wrench an arm the wrong way or anything like that, you know, the action is stopped, and depending on what ends up happening, you could get into some kind of trouble, right? So wrestling is an art that, as it evolved, it became more and more and more about just straight up being able to control your opponent on the ground, you know? So that makes it absolutely positively perfect for being a cop. You know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is also about control, but it's also about submitting and things like that. And there's a bit of a different dynamic and things like that. So yeah. BLM BJJ. I have, when I open up my gym, I know what I'm going to call it now. And I'm going to leave it ambiguous too. I'm not going to let people know if it means either of the two acronyms or either of the two sayings or brands or whatever, right? That it is known for meaning. I'm going to leave it completely ambiguous. I'm going to find a way to do that, and it's going to confuse the hell out of people. Nice Chen Hanks White Boy Summer font. I would assume you were talking about this. Yeah. I mean, this was released 9 years ago. This was kind of on the tail end of the whole this is kind of on the tail end of the whole new metal, like I'm a biker type of thing. And Krav Maga is one of those things that kind of you know, it kind of borrows from that in terms of its aesthetic, right? From what I've noticed, a lot of Krav Maga guys like this weird biker Sereno, Norteño, you know, Mexican gang, or like a skinhead Peckerwood gang type of font and aesthetic and things like that. I've noticed that. You know, Krav Maga doesn't actually exist. This is something that I would make a video about, but multiple people have made a video about it on their own. Krav Maga does not actually exist. It's actually really, Krav Maga is a 2-week course by the Israeli military that, instead of teaching you techniques, which it does teach you a technique or two, what it really teaches you is just how to be as aggressive and as violent as you possibly can be. And this is a Krav Maga guy right here, right? Where's the first one that he does, right? This is a quintessential example of Krav Maga, right? The technique is shoddy, but the dude's doing it really fucking hard for no reason, right? Let's go ahead. Oh, geez, excuse me. Sorry. Jeez. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that first one again, right? So, he ends up hitting the knee, and he pulls the knee, but the thing is, he still kind of hits the guy with the knee in a way that is going to cause a little bit of pain on this guy's end. Again, even when they're going soft, they're still going kind of fucking hard for no reason, you know? When dude kicks it out, doesn't really try to save the dude or anything like that. It's a good thing he has good break falls, right? I'm pretty sure he had a good break fall. Let's go ahead and check that out, right? Bang, bang. Yeah, he had a decent break fall, right? And then you see that, right? That's exactly the type of stuff that you would recognize or that you would expect from Krav Maga, is like stuff that doesn't really work, but they just try and do it as hard as they can and hope that you're going to play possum, you know, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, that's how hyper aggression is used. It's not necessarily that somebody is more aggressive and they're more violent, and because of that, they're going to win because it provides them some sort of tactical or strategic or technical edge or anything like that. It's really that they're hoping that you're going to come at them in a way that they're going to be like, wow, this guy really wants to kick my ass. He's trying really hard. I don't think I can try that hard. I don't think I can go as hard as this guy's going. Maybe I should just give up, right? Like, that's basically what it is. In addition to that, you also don't want to get caught in certain situations. Like, if you're running from somebody with a gun, you don't go half speed. You go full speed as hard as you can. You run any which way you can to try and avoid getting shot. You zigzag, you jump over things, you run behind things, right? That's what you do. You don't run in a straight line half speed, right? You have to almost be aggressive in the way that you're running away. You have to hyper aggressively run away, right? That's really kind of what it is. You know, and if you see the way that they train Krav Maga in the Israeli military, you notice that it kind of is the real life equivalent of when you were 10 years old and you got Call of Duty, right? You get Call of Duty, you're 10 years old. Technically, the way you're supposed to play it is you're supposed to stay with Captain Price and Gaz, and you're supposed to work as kind of a team, right? The AI was going to kill some of the bad guys for you, right? And you're supposed to be behind cover, and you're supposed to duck out of the cover to the best of your ability in the video game that is now well over 10 years old. You know, and you shoot a couple of guys and then you duck back behind cover and then you reload, right? That's how you're supposed to play those games, right? But typically what ends up happening, because you're 10 years old and you just want to kill, you end up charging ahead and you start just fucking murking everybody, right? That's basically Krav Maga, is instead of taking it nice and slow and smooth and, you know, being cautious and things like that, you just throw caution to the wind and you're like, hey, I'm going to be a berserker. I'm going to be a berserker, and that's going to be my protection because I'm going to be able to catch people off guard. I'm going to be running around in a way that's going to make it not impossible, but much harder for somebody to actually get led inside of me, right? And then in addition to that, I'm going to be doing things that are so aggressive, that are so violent, that if I do hit somebody, probably they're going to end up falling over, right? Or they're going to see me and how much of a wild man I am, and they're going to be like, yo, I don't even want any of that, bro. I don't want any of that. I'll put my gun down. Hey, I'm going home, bro. Like, that's really what Krav Maga is. And if you see the way that they train it, they do a lot of drills like that, where you're running through a shoot house and you're just absolutely just trying to mog everybody in sight and things like that. You know, it's not this. It's not, hey, we're gonna get mats, we're gonna slap them down, and we're gonna go over predetermined and pre-practiced techniques and things like that. So anyone who does Krav Maga, right, and they're doing this, it's fake. It's not real, right? And I'm not saying that they have absolutely positively nothing to offer at all. I would do Krav Maga because you never know what they might end up showing you that you could actually apply in a self-defense situation, right? You never know. They do have some good stuff every now and again, right? The way I disarm somebody with a gun, which I don't do, but the way that I learned to do it, I learned it from a Krav guy, and it is, to my understanding, actually a pretty good way to do it. And you shouldn't either. You shouldn't try and do that either. The only reason I know is because I take an interest in this, and I think it's cool to know these things, right? I wouldn't just try and disarm somebody with a gun. That would be completely foolish of me. You know, I'd rather just give them my money and then they can run off and I can go home. Right. You know, and that's part of self-defense too, is one, staying alert, and two, not keeping mad money on you, just handing them your wallet and then they run off and they only got like $5 to $10, you know. That legit, like, if you think of it, that is a good method of self-defense, both for yourself as well as your wallet. You know, it's you know, I'm not saying that I would never do Krav Maga, and I actually did go to a Krav Maga guy, and he taught me some interesting things that I still do use to this day, and I teach them to people as well. But with that said, 90%, 80 to 90% of what they're going to teach you is not actually very good. You know, you're better off going to an MMA guy and asking him, hey, so if you wanted to break the rules, if you were in the middle of an MMA fight and you decided, you know what, I feel like completely ruining my career, I'm going to do something highly illegal right now. Right? If you were in an MMA fight and you thought to yourself that type of stuff, what would you do? You're literally better off doing that. Because they'll tell you, oh yeah, I actually wouldn't do anything illegal in this situation because I wouldn't really be able to do it in a way that's going to be safe for me. I don't want to eye gouge from the guard because he's on top of me right now. So if I eye gouge him, he's just going to back up, and now he's postured up and he's going to start beating the shit out of me. So I'm not going to do it there. However, if I was able to stand up and we were back in neutral, we were back striking, or maybe I was to hit a sweep or something and I was on top, I might gouge his eye. I might go for his nuts. I might go for his throat. I might try and rip an ear off or something like that. Like, we all know this stuff. We just don't practice it, because why would we be practicing ripping our friends' ears off and things like that? That'd be terrible, you know? Why would we're not trying to touch each other's pee-pees or anything like that, right? We're not going to the MMA gym to try and feel each other's hogs. You know, that's not what we're here for. But I don't know. I guess Krav Maga guys, they have a thing for that. Anyway, it's been a little bit over 2 hours. I think I'm gonna get out of here. I apologize for the lack of Fallout New Vegas. That is not something that I ever plan on doing. You know, my bad on that. It just happened, you know. I hope you enjoyed this, though. I hope you at least enjoyed this, you know. You know, I want to do more streams like this, I will say, and that's kind of what the Fridays are meant to be, right? That's what the Fridays are meant to be. Is they're meant to be chill streams, or if I have something that I kind of want to harp on, I can make that the topic of that stream. That way we're not getting in the way of Fallout Sundays, right? So, you know, I will be doing more of those in the future on Friday nights. Stay tuned for those. And yeah. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. There will be a video coming out tomorrow. I already told you what that video was going to be. It's going to be on police combatives. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Till next time, peace out.